Hey everyone, I was involved with two sales this month that highlight the divide in Victoria's real estate market that we're seeing today. Both properties were purchased in 2019. One is a single family detached home and one is a 2-bedroom condo. Can you guess which one turned out to be a better investment? The answer probably won't surprise you, but it will explain why we're seeing such an absolute glut of unsold condo inventory and fierce competition for detached homes. I'll dig into that after we look at what's happening around Victoria because there's a lot going on right now. A total of 426 properties sold in February. Sales are down from this time last year, which really hits home how much uncertainty and lack of confidence buyers have in this market and economy. 20% of these properties had to do price drops before they sold. Also, 1 in 20 of the new listings we saw were properties purchased in the last 3 years and are now being sold again. So if a new listing looks vaguely familiar to you, that's why. These sellers are usually off the mark with price, and they're also trying to recoup property transfer tax, realtor fees, and still make a profit. But the market just isn't responding well to that. The only number that matters to buyers is the value today, not the purchase price paid in 2022. The average detached home sold 4% above assessed value, whereas the average condo is selling 3% below assessed value. 400 agents accounted for all the transactions we saw last month. We have over 1,600 real estate agents in Victoria, so that means over 1,200 agents did zero business in February. This explains why in Victoria and most markets in Canada, the majority of agents are doing it part-time. Just something to ask your agent about when you're interviewing them, how much market share they have, and are they part-time or full-time. The top bidding wars were all over the map this month. Esquimalt, Hillside, South Oak Bay. We saw some competitive sales there, and even a few out in Happy Valley. Here are the lowest sales for the month. The outlying areas of Victoria once again made the list. This includes Cobble Hill, Souk, and the Gulf Islands. North Saanich and Deep Cove continually top the list for deeply discounted homes. And it makes sense since these large estates properties often take years to sell. It's a very small buyer pool, and just after a while, seller fatigue can set in. I've relaunched my monthly newsletter called Victoria Market Insider, which has all these hyperlocal trends and more. The link to subscribe is below. I'm trying my best to pull stats that aren't boring and actually give you some real insights into Victoria's market. As I said, I was involved in 2 transactions this month, a detached home and a condo. The condo was in Vic West and sold as a pre-sale for about $700,000 in 2019. This was a steel and concrete building, above average levels of finishing, and even had some decent views. It just resold for $890,000, so that's a 27% return or 3.5% year over year. But that's before we add in all the GST paid, transfer tax, strata fees, property tax to hold it, and realtor fees as well when it came time to sell. The second property was a home in Saanich, purchased for $870,000 in 2019 and recently sold for $1.2 million. That's a 38% return or 4.7% annually. There were also holding costs for this one too and some improvements and repairs to be made, but far less than the condo. As an aside, just for comparison, if you had invested the 20% down or $175,000 for these homes in index funds, you hit one of the best bull runs in history, and that's a 157% return that would yield over $450,000 today. As primary residences, which both these properties were, the owners benefited from a place to live, which we can't ignore that, and a lot of people do when they're doing these numbers. If you assumed renting for about $2,000 a month over the 7 years, that's pretty much close to how much you would have made on the index fund that I mentioned using the 20% down payment. But a lot of things have to go right for that to work. There's no guarantees that's how it's going to play out again over the next 6 or 7 years, but it's something to think about, and it's not a bad argument for renting versus owning. One more thing to note, this condo was brand new, built 2019, so it didn't face any major special assessments. For a condo older than 25 years or so, special assessments at $20,000, $50,000, even up to $100,000 over this time period, that's not unheard of, and it will destroy any equity built up. The takeaway here is that single family homes simply outperform condos and hence why they're in more demand in today's market. It's super competitive to get any detached home under $1 million or 1.2 million for those with suites. On the flip side, condo sales are sluggish. I've shown countless tentative condos recently that will be likely hard to sell and they're sitting on the market. There are now one-bedroom condos downtown with parking for under $400,000, which was unheard of a few years ago. Condos seemingly have unlimited supply as more and more high-rise developments are approved and built, whereas detached homes are torn down to make way for condos and become more rare. Now, I'm not against condos and strata properties. I sell a lot of them. There are some advantages to condo life, such as lower down payments required. They're more secure, there's less maintenance, and you can get into some pretty great areas like Vic West and the Saanich, for example, which have very few, if no, detached homes to choose from. Buying the right condo, though, is extremely important. You've got to do your due diligence to make sure it's well managed and well built and has the highest chance of appreciating, since the margins are much more narrow and you can easily get stuck with an asset that's harder to sell. That's it for this month. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.